Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer of Michale Pollan's fascinating book, A World Appears. Let's just dive right into it, shall we? Today, we're going to unpack Pollan's deep dive into the mysteries of the human mind and really take a hard look at the modern forces that are actively trying to hijack our attention. Our journey today is going to take us everywhere, from the raw biology of our brains all the way to the algorithms buzzing away in our pockets. But before we get into the heavy science, I want you to stop for a second and just ask yourself, what is actually happening inside your head right now? Literally, right this second. Try to actively observe your own thoughts. You're probably processing the sound of my voice, maybe you're thinking about your plans for later today, or perhaps you're just noticing the physical weight of the chair you're sitting in. That precious, entirely private interiority, that mental freedom, is a complete miracle that we all experience every single day. And yet, it's still one of the most profound enigmas in all of science. There's this absolutely beautiful metaphor from the British neuroscientist Charles Scott Sherrington, which he wrote over 80 years ago. He described the brain as an enchanted loom where millions of flashing shuttles weave a dissolving pattern. Isn't that great? It's just a stunning way to visually anchor the complex, constantly shifting, and deeply biological nature of our thoughts. It's a great reminder that our minds are living tissue, They aren't just cold mechanical hard drives.
Section 1. The Mystery of Consciousness, the Human Mind.
So to really wrap our heads around this mystery, we have to confront what's known as the hard problem. This was coined by philosopher David Chalmers back in 1994, and it makes a really vital academic distinction. Chalmers argued that linking brain activity to specific mental operations, like, say, pinpointing exactly which part of your brain lights up when you see the color red, well, those are actually the easy problems. The hard problem is figuring out why those electrical and chemical processes actually come with a subjective feeling of awareness. Like, why does it feel like anything at all to just be you? Well, modern researchers are looking deep down into the brain's ancient subcortical regions and the upper brainstem to finally solve that hard problem. Down there, interoceptive neurons are constantly receiving and reading signals from your body, basic things like hunger, thirst, and pain. The theory Pollan presents is that our nervous system basically evolved simply to mind the body and keep us alive. And this is huge because it effectively completely dissolves that old philosophical divide championed by guys like Galileo and Descartes. It proves you really can't separate the conscious mind from the biological body. And this biological, feeling-based reality, it perfectly echoes what the famous psychologist William James called a stream of consciousness. Instead of relying on sterile, kind of mechanical metaphors for the brain, like clocks or computers, James pointed out that our minds are actually in this messy, fluid, ever-changing flux. Thoughts and feelings naturally bleed into one another, right? It just goes to show that our inner world is incredibly dynamic and organic.
Section 2. Beyond the Human Brain, Plants and Psychedelics.
Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. To understand this outward journey, we have to look at how we perceive the entire world. Thinkers like Aldous Huxley believed our brains normally act as a sort of reducing valve, basically filtering out the massive, overwhelming sensory input of the universe just so we can function and survive. But psychedelics, like magic mushrooms or LSD, are thought to loosen that valve, letting in what Huxley called mind at large. The psychologist Alison Gopnik even suggests that this loosening returns adults to that wide-open, completely unedited reality that we experienced back in childhood. And this shift in perception isn't just philosophical. It has measurable effects. A really compelling study from 2022 showed that having just a single psychedelic experience makes people dramatically more likely to attribute consciousness to other entities. And we're talking both living and non-living things here. It's like when that reducing valve opens up, humans suddenly stop assuming they hold a total monopoly on sentience.
Which actually leads us to some totally mind-bending claims from a field known as plant neurobiology. Researchers like Michael Levin suggest that plants might actually exhibit goal-directed cognition. They hypothesize that plant roots are essentially acting as leaderless neural networks that use bioelectricity to communicate with each other. These researchers are claiming plants have the ability to store memories, learn from their surroundings, and even predict environmental changes. I mean, wow. It challenges our whole definition of intelligence and really forces us to respect the friction and complexity of all organic life.
Section 3. The Threat of Technology, the Artificial World. But as you know, we're facing a massive modern challenge to all this organic friction right now. Get this, a shocking 72% of teenagers are now turning to artificial intelligence for companionship. People are literally using chatbots as therapists, friends, and confidants. This shines a light on a pretty terrifying reality.
Algorithms are hacking not just our attention spans, but our actual ability to form genuine emotional attachments. We're actively projecting consciousness onto entities that, frankly, simply do not possess it. When you put these two worlds side by side, it's pretty wild to see what we stand to lose. Human consciousness is totally defined by biological friction, true feelings driven by our physical bodies, and those messy, challenging relationships that actually shape who we are. Contrast that with AI, which is, at the end of the day, pure information processing. Even when they're programmed with simulated needs, these chatbots are basically sycophantic. They just suck up to you. There's no true friction there. And without friction, we lose the very essence of real human connection. It's actually kind of darkly ironic when you think about it. You've got tech billionaires in Silicon Valley spending unimaginable amounts of money trying to engineer simulated feelings like hunger and tiredness into AI, all to create this synthetic consciousness. Meanwhile, we humans are doing the exact opposite. We are willingly numbing our own real biological feelings by endlessly doom scrolling through social media algorithms that were explicitly designed to monetize our attention. Section 4. Reclaiming your inner world. Consciousness hygiene. So the big question is, how do we fight back? Well, it all comes down to something called consciousness hygiene. This is the deliberate practice of actively protecting your private space of interiority. It's that vital daily effort to reclaim your mental sovereignty from algorithms and technologies that are designed purely to grab and sell your attention. It's about finally recognizing that your mind is a precious realm and consciously deciding exactly who gets to occupy it. Pollan breaks this down into 4 super practical steps. Step 1, meditate. This basically acts as a way to draw a defensive fence around your own thoughts. Step 2, and no surprise here, put down the smartphone. Step 3 is to embrace intentional boredom. Pollan shares this great little anecdote in the book about sitting alone in a cafe waiting a ridiculously long time for a bowl of oatmeal and blueberry compote. But instead of instantly escaping into his phone, he just sat with his thoughts, realizing it's actually incredibly healthy to just wait and exist in the moment. And finally, step 4, own your mental noise. Look, it's not about achieving some perfectly empty, silent mind. It's just about ensuring that the noise bouncing around inside your head is genuinely yours and not something planted there by an algorithm. To really drive this whole concept home, Pollan shares this incredibly profound quote from the poet Jory Graham. She writes, "This is what is wrong. We, only we, the humans, can retreat from ourselves and not be altogether here." It's so true, right? We are uniquely capable of just checking out of our own reality, of handing over our awareness to a glowing screen and entirely retreating from the present moment. And all of this leaves us with a really provocative question to wrap up on today. What animal can afford to not be completely conscious? Seriously, think about that for a second. Out in nature, an animal that isn't completely present, an animal that checks out or gets distracted, well, it gets eaten. It is a dangerous, distinctly human luxury that we can afford to not be altogether here. So the next time you feel that automatic urge to pull out your phone just to avoid a quiet moment, ask yourself, are you really willing to give away the one thing that truly belongs to you, your own consciousness? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this helps you reclaim your inner world.